It was a quiet evening in Denver, Colorado, the kind of evening when the streets fall into a hush after the rush of commuters has faded. The sky had just turned into a canvas of purples and oranges, and I stood at the kitchen sink rinsing out the coffee mugs from earlier in the day. My name is Emily Carter, and I had no idea that what was about to unfold would forever change the way I looked at my family, my choices, and the meaning of trust. My husband, Michael, had been away on business for almost 2 weeks. He was a corporate consultant and often traveled for long stretches. Over the years, I had grown accustomed to his absence, but this time felt different. The house seemed quieter, emptier. Maybe it was because our son Daniel had just turned 21 and was finding his own place in the world. I thought everything was under control, that life was stable. But sometimes, the most ordinary days unravel in extraordinary ways. The restless silence. Daniel came into the kitchen just as I finished stacking the last dish. "Mom," he said, running a hand through his messy brown hair. "You okay? You look tired." I smiled faintly. "I'm fine, honey. Just a little drained. It's been a long week with your dad gone." He pulled out a chair and sat at the table, staring at me with the kind of concern that only someone close to you notices. "You've been pushing yourself too hard. Work, house, everything. Why don't you take a break?" That sentence, simple, caring, was the first spark in what would later become a firestorm of emotions. The unexpected gesture. Later that night, I sat in the living room reading, but my mind kept wandering. The loneliness had grown unbearable. Michael's calls were brief, hurried, and distracted. I began to wonder if my marriage was slowly slipping into the shadows of routine. Out of nowhere, Daniel appeared with a blanket and a tray of tea. "Thought you could use this," he said, his voice warm. It was such a small act, but in that moment, it felt like the universe had given me exactly what I needed: kindness, presence, and care. I felt my throat tighten, not out of anything inappropriate, but from the deep reminder of how much connection I had been missing. Whispers of the past. As we sipped tea, I told him stories of my childhood, of how my father used to bring me hot cocoa whenever I was sad. Daniel listened attentively, nodding and smiling. "You know, Mom," he said thoughtfully, "Dad doesn't realize how lucky he is. You're always here for everyone, and sometimes I think he forgets to be here for you." The words stung, not because they weren't true, but because I had been secretly thinking the same thing. Michael's absence, both physically and emotionally, had started to carve out a hollow space inside me. The tension of truth. The following day, as I folded laundry, I found one of Michael's shirts that still carried the faint smell of his cologne. I pressed it to my face, closing my eyes, and for the first time in years, I realized how distant we had become. I loved him, but I missed us. Daniel walked in just then, catching me in a vulnerable moment. "Mom," he said softly, "you don't have to hide it. I know you're hurting." That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts spun like a carousel: marriage, motherhood, loneliness, and the aching need for someone to just see me. When secrets spill. 2 evenings later, while we were having dinner, Daniel set down his fork and looked at me with unusual seriousness. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course," I replied cautiously. "Are you happy with Dad?" The question sliced through me like a blade. My instinct was to say yes, to protect him, to protect the image of our family. But the truth pressed against my chest too heavily. "I don't know anymore," I whispered. Daniel nodded, his jaw tightening. "I've noticed. He's not around, and when he is, it feels like he's not really here. I hate seeing you so lonely." It wasn't what he said that shook me most. It was the way he said it, with genuine care. It reminded me that the people who notice our pain are often the ones closest to us. The turning point. By the weekend, something inside me shifted. I realized I had been waiting for Michael to change, to come back not just to the house, but to me. But maybe the real change had to start within myself. I sat Daniel down in the living room. "I need to tell you something important," I began. "You've been so kind these past days, and it means the world to me. But I need to remind myself, and you, that my struggles with your dad are between us as a couple. You shouldn't feel responsible for filling that void." He nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. I just don't want to see you suffer, Mom. I'll always be here for you. At that moment, I realized how strong the bond between a parent and child could truly be. His support wasn't about crossing lines, it was about being family in the purest sense. Confrontation and clarity. When Michael finally returned, I knew I couldn't stay silent any longer. That night, after Daniel had gone to bed, I confronted him. Michael, we need to talk, I said firmly. He looked startled but nodded. I can't keep living like this, like roommates. I miss us. I miss feeling like your partner, your priority. Our son noticed before you did, and that's heartbreaking. For the first time in a long time, Michael didn't dismiss my words. Instead, he sat quietly, his face pale. Emily, you're right. I've been so caught up in work that I forgot why I was doing it in the first place. I've let us slip away, and I don't want to lose you. Tears welled in my eyes. Then show me. Be here, not just in this house, but with me. A family rebuilt. The weeks that followed were not perfect, but they were healing. Michael made an effort to be present, taking time off, planning small surprises, and listening when I spoke. Daniel, too, seemed relieved that the unspoken weight had lifted from the air. One evening, we all sat on the porch, watching the sunset together. Daniel cracked a joke that made us both laugh until our sides hurt. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of wholeness. It wasn't that the pain or loneliness had disappeared overnight, but something far more important had happened. We had faced the truth, confronted it, and chosen to heal instead of letting silence destroy us. Final reflection. Looking back, I realized that the story isn't about betrayal in the traditional sense. It's about the infidelity of neglect, the way one can be physically present but emotionally absent, and how damaging that can be. My son didn't cross lines. What he did was open my eyes. He reminded me of my worth, of my need to be seen, and of the power of speaking truth instead of hiding in silence. Sometimes, the most shocking thing is not what someone else does, but what we discover about ourselves when we're forced to face the emptiness we've been ignoring. And in that discovery lies the possibility of rebuilding, not just a marriage, but an entire family.